All right, everybody, and welcome to episode 236 of the 9 Years podcast with Nick Draper and the face of the BBC Sport website, Mr. Stuart Deakins. And it is, listeners, our last podcast of 2020. And what a year it's been. Arguably one of the worst years in mankind since I was born in 1994. Hey, can you think of a worse year, Stu?
Can't. No, I can't. Do you know what? It's. I think we will look back at this year, hopefully in, I don't know, a year, 2 years' time, and just when you actually comprehend what's happened, I think we will look back and think, wow, do you know what I mean? Because I think it's very difficult to assess it because we're still in it, but it's been a hell of a year.
It's unfortunate that we're never going to be able to forget this year through football, where football would normally be an escape from the realities of life. In the history books, our first game back at Plough Lane will be in the year 2020 when fans weren't allowed inside stadiums, and will always forever be a reminder of the lockdowns and the COVID pandemic that has affected everyone, really. I mean, of course it's affected everyone. It's affected some people a lot more negatively than others. I think it's fair to say it's affected everyone in their different ways, but there are certain people, I mean, with all due respect to him, let's pick a name at random, but because he's such a big controversial name at the moment in popular culture, not really affected Piers Morgan particularly much, has it? Let's be honest. He's gone about, his job hasn't changed. He got to go in and do his job every day. He's still got paid the same amount of money that he's always been paid. The pandemic really hasn't factored into his life too much, where there are others that are obviously lost relatives and loved ones and people that have been ill because of it, people that have lost their job, their livelihood because of lockdowns. The amount and the negative effects on mental health of thousands, hundreds of thousands of children across the country, which I can tell you firsthand experience, has been bad. And I think sometimes it can be very frustrating. I know when we talk about football, it's meant to be escapism. Just personally, from a personal perspective, when people talk about shutting schools and sending children home, I don't think people quite grasp the reality of what that means for a lot of children across the country. So it's been great that at least we've been able to keep schools open for the majority since September. But it's been a hard year, and we'll be glad to see the back of it. We can only hope that 2021 picks up quickly. We don't know at this stage. Who knows? But I think, Stuart, it is important to reference there, as I've mentioned, children and their mental health. I think mental health is a big thing. We do have to recognise, it is important to recognise what people have been facing and struggling. And I think we've all had our own battles at certain points with various different things. I know I have. And yeah, just keep looking out for each other, I think is what I would say.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, we've learned, I think when we look back at this, we've learned a lot about ourselves, a lot about some of our friends, and we've all reacted differently, haven't we? And you're right, some people are in a position where actually this isn't affecting them. And there's others that, losing their job, losing their income, losing their houses, there's still a lot that hasn't, I don't think it's fully, furlough's been extended and stuff like that. So I think, the government are trying to support everyone as much as they can, but there's going to be a fallout and it's going to be real tough times. You're right, football normally is an escapism, but it's not at the moment on that side of it. And it's interesting to say about Plough Lane because, I've just received the We Are Home book, which is about loads of memories, and it's got a picture there of Doncaster, first game, cutouts behind the goal. It's just, when you look back at, when my son looks back at this year, it's going to be really mad. But also, I sort of think in a way, the first game officially with behind fans, I mean, when we can have a full house, I think that first game will be even more special than what it would have been, because you've got the added thing of 30 years and also the added thing of nobody really being able to do a normal thing in life. So I think when that first game happens, I think it would be even a bigger, spectacular event than it probably would have been if things had stayed normal.
And you talk about football being an escapism for many people. It's not so much, my escapism has come from actually escaping football. I actually found watching it, especially when the Premier League came back in June, I found watching it added to my, I was fine in reality. People had a lot worse than mine. I just had the sort of lockdown, sort of shrug of the shoulders and exhale kind of, this is just long and boring. And I mean, I'm quite fortunate in many regards. I referenced Piers Morgan there, but it does annoy me that football does seem to just carry on regardless. and I see an argument between Jose Mourinho's moaning about the way Jurgen Klopp celebrated a winning goal. I'm not watching any of this, by the way, but this is what I pick up. When you pick up the paper and you just turn to the back page and you just see what's on the back page and you see it, and you go, really? Like, some perspective, like... And that also, unfortunately, in a lot of ways, it sort of drops the scales fall from your eyes a little bit with all this, because you think, God, 2 years ago, this big argument between two huge international managers of two massive football clubs, and everyone would be going, oh, this is insane, and look, big scandal and big gossip and things like that. And then you put it into this perspective and you go, what are you arguing about? Like,
yeah, and you know what? Like, football, we always used to say, like, the Premiership was a different world. Different, you know, lived in a different environment, you know, different world, different money thing. It's even more apparent now, you know, it's so far-fetched from the real world. You know, like, I know you love your wrestling, but it's like watching a wrestling that's just like, they don't actually comprehend. There's no, you know, there's no relation to reality. Do you know what I mean?
It's not tethered to reality, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's what it things. And you're right. But the funny thing is, actually, I watched, I turned the TV on Sunday and the Fulham versus Liverpool game was on. And I've been very much like you. I really, really struggle. In my head, the game's on and I want to watch it. But then it starts and reality goes, it's the same behind closed doors that we've always had. But I heard a different noise. I heard a crowd noise, like a proper, real crowd noise. And
Fulham?
Well, exactly. Do you know what I mean? Exactly. But I actually watched the whole game because, to me, it was like some sort of normal... It felt like a game. And I know it sounds really silly on that sort of side of it. And then the flip side to that is, I watched our game against Sunderland and I really struggled to get involved in it. I struggled to, and to the extent, you know, we'd done a back to Plough Lane and I was quite down about it because I just didn't really enjoy it. That's because I think I'd gone from watching a game with fans to watching a game that resembled a training ground game.
Yeah.
And I just didn't enjoy it. And they say, I reckon I'm not alone in that. But yeah, football is not the escapism that I think we all need. I think it's a supplement, but it's not the answer.
I would love to know, and I don't know if there's any way we'll ever be able to know, how many Wimbledon fans sat and watched the Sunderland game on Tuesday night compared to how many Wimbledon fans actually travelled up to Sunderland a couple of years ago. I know we played them in August last year, right near the start of the season. We didn't take as many, but I think we played them in a February time the year before that. I think we took over 1,000 or something like that. So we took a huge number that distance. Honestly, I could be wrong, but I don't think there's that many people watching the games online, especially the midweek ones.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's difficult different times, aren't they, as well?
Well, they are at different. Yeah, what was it? 6 o'clock kickoff or 7 o'clock kickoff?
7 o'clock kickoff.
And I do wonder. Like, it's different for me, like I say, because in my job, and I know I've poked fun at Piers Morgan there, but I'm in a similar position in terms of I've been in work every day. So I've been into school every day since September. So not for the initial lockdown, not from March until then, but from September, been in school every day, and I've largely got on with my life as before. But football hasn't factored into it really. So I'm from the perspective where a midweek game for me is difficult. I was working really late on Tuesday. I didn't watch the game. I saw the result, and that was it. My perspective is going to be different. Maybe there are people out there that are furloughed still, can't go into work, and their days are being built around watching games online. I don't know. I would be interested to see what the viewing figures are like, though. And I'll be interested to hear what people are saying, because social media. I hate social media, by the way. I don't know if I've mentioned, but a lot of the conversations that I had on social media about games and things are what I would say from usual suspects. By that I mean people that names I often see over the past couple of years that have been on their Twitter and Facebook having these conversations. So I don't know about other people that don't tend to have their conversations on social media. I don't know what they're doing. Like, we've got how many season ticket holders? How many of them are watching a home game on iFollow? I don't know.
No, and do you know what? It would be interesting. The club might be able to produce that. It's an interesting point, actually, isn't it? Because I think the whole routine has changed. Like, we all had a routine before COVID. We probably struggled to remember what our routine was, to be honest with you, because we're very much those sort of creatures, aren't we? Of habits and stuff like that. But, like, you know, my routine on Tuesday night, I was doing obviously back to Plough Lane, but it was literally work, finish work, and I was home because I'm working from home.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to be fair, nothing seemed to change. It actually felt like I was doing work. It didn't feel like I had that separation between my work and my hobby. And maybe that's what it is. And don't get me wrong, I've said before, I'm lucky to go to games and stuff, but it has become more of a work because I want to be with fans. I want to be with other fans. And I think that's the same, you and I love our football. We can watch probably any game. But you have Wimbledon fans that go simply because of the atmosphere and the occasion. And they're the ones that probably are not going to watch games on iFollow, and they're going to really struggle. And it'd be interesting when we come out of this, of what our routines are going to be like. It's, I lose track of time, like 6 o'clock, 7. On Tuesday, we had a 6 o'clock, we had a 5:30, 6 o'clock, a 7 o'clock, and a 7:45 kickoff. Yeah. Yeah, and you lose track sometimes what time you're kicking off. When we used to laugh, didn't we, with Premiership fans that they got a Saturday 3 o'clock kickoff. That was like 1 in 10 games. Well, nowadays the kickoffs are everywhere, aren't they? That sort of side of it. Like I watch TV, I turn TV on, there's a game of football on. I'm like, well, when did that start? What time is it? What league is it? And I didn't realise European competitions were still going on.
Yeah,
it's just it's weird, isn't it? I love my football, but I agree when you come back to what you were saying. Doesn't feel like it's an escapism for me, and actually I don't like the fact that it's just gone on as normal when everything else outside isn't normal.
Yeah, and we'll come on to that with the Sunderland game in particular for a very specific reason in a moment. I'll just add to the point there about kickoff times. Amazon have had all the Premier League games this midweek, I think.
Yeah.
And the questions have already been asked on social media. You get a choice. They're all kicking off at the same time. You get a choice of which one you want to watch on Amazon. Why don't they do this on Saturdays at 3 o'clock? And I think, where this is going.
Of course. And
this is going to happen. There's no mission creep. It's going to happen eventually. It always does. And we're going to have every single game available to watch online. And inevitably, it's going to affect crowds. It will do.
Yeah, well, we knew the reason, the 3 p.m. was sacred because it was protected. And the reason it was protected was to ensure that, we're lucky in this country. We have a real, 91 league clubs. We have a real, and then below that, we have a really strong non-league. We have a really good following in the National League and stuff like that. But yes, do you know what? It's interesting. I actually watched the Amazon Prime on Tuesday. I have to say, was it Tuesday, Wednesday? I can't remember what day it was. Wednesday, wasn't it? I have to say I quite enjoyed it. And I know it sounds really, but their coverage was really good. And sometimes you've got like Sky Sports and BT that sometimes become a little bit blasé with their coverage. Amazon's coverage was really good. 4K, it was in proper like 4K. But I did sit there and think, if I was a fan that just literally watched football at home, yeah, this is brilliant for what I would want. I'm not. But you know what I mean? I can see there will be an audience. The things like 5 subs, that's going to stay. There's no way. Klopp moans about it. It will happen. They're going to vote on that. I don't see us getting away from it. Because you're so, you know what it's like. People, you don't go backwards. VAR come in. VAR's not scrapped. It's not going to go backwards. And that's the thing of it. So we're going to have 5 subs. We're going to have 3 o'clock kickoffs. I suppose when we come out of this, the league clubs are going to have to be creative. Don't know how they do that, but do you know what I mean by that? Like you look at firms in this. Some people have gone from producing gin to now producing hand sanitizers. They've adapted within the environment.
You adapt and survive. That's life. That's always going to have to happen. It's just, hey, look, who was it that said that man is most conservative about the things he knows most about? And in terms of football, I just think things didn't need to change. We do things, and they were working fine. And I mourn, and I will mourn for the death of the 3 o'clock kickoff. I've said it many times. I just think back to I think of the big clubs, like I think of Manchester United, and I think of all the thousands of people. Do you know what? A great book on this one. I say Manchester United. I'm gonna flip it to Man City. Really, really great book is I'm Not Really Here by Paul Lake, the player that had to end his career early because of injuries. He just could not get back to himself. And he's written a great book about this. And he talks about how when he was younger, he'd play for Man City on Saturday, 3 o'clock. And then afterwards they'd go out into the city centre in Manchester and all the fans, and they'd be mingling and congregating. And the fans' days were built around meeting up and going out and going to the football. And then all those sorts of that social side of it. And I know it's been a running theme of my thinking this year, and I've mentioned it on the podcast, is the death of these societal things and the sense of community. It brings people together. As soon as you go 3 o'clock Saturday kickoffs, people will argue, well, if people wanted to, they wouldn't do it if they didn't want to, I guess you could argue. Humans, we're generally lazy, though. We're like water. We take the path of least resistance a lot of times. And if you can flick on a TV and be watching a game, and at 5 o'clock you can be sat doing something else with your time, I know.
No, you're right, and that's for the British fan, But remember, we've got a market, and it's the Far East market, the American market. You know, I was watching. What was I watching the other day? There was a Kickoff, and I think I saw a bit of an American coverage that I was on YouTube, and they called it the morning Premier League or something really weird. Like, right. So for them, like a 3 o'clock kickoff in New York is going to be a 10 a.m. kickoff, and it was like they sort of built a morning show into the Premier League. I'm like, do you know what I mean? It's like, do you know what, the market's there, and I don't think it's going to change. You know, the problem is we're going to have probably about a year of the whole fixture list being changed. 5 subs, potentially a concussion sub, which would be another permanent sub, which is potentially six subs on that sort of side of it. I think the 3 o'clock kickoffs will go being protected, and the clubs, I don't know what the clubs are going to do. They're going to have to somehow adapt to their link a season ticket in with an Amazon. Do you know what I mean? I think they're going to have to do something we're going to do very well to keep these amount of clubs. But then if you look at it, spin it around a little bit, if you look at it, we've got the salary caps in, haven't we? We're trying to do what we can, because if you said rightly so before, why do we need such a big squad? I know we sort of the subs now have gone in it, but do we need big squads? Do you know what I mean? Are we wasting money? So I think coming out of this, I was thinking this the other day about my match day experience, and I'm really struggling to remember what Kings Meadow was like. Like sort of. Well,
in a word.
I knew you were going to say that. But like when you go to a new ground that we've not been to, in a different situation, we've not been football for a year, it's going to be the most weirdest thing, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Because we're creatures of habit, aren't we? So how we adapt, I don't know.
With all due respect to Kings Meadow, on the one occasion I was fortunate enough to attend a game at Plough Lane, I walked from Wimbledon Station. I like a walk, so I'm quite happy to walk. About 20 minutes it took me.
Yeah.
And I just thought, it just felt, even though there's no crowds, but I could imagine when crowds are back and the stadium is full on a match day. And I could just feel this is what football for me should be. And coming from, Wimbledon, coming from Wimbledon Town Centre, with all due respect to Kings Meadow, walking past Fat Boys and the Chippy and the Spa,
and the smell coming,
and then whatever, was there a hairdresser's there as well? Not really. Yeah. With all due respect, not quite the same match day buzz you normally get, or I was used to. Certainly, even going back to Selhurst Park days when you have those big crowds and people flocking to stadiums. Listeners, forgive me for this one, but Kenilworth Road, you're walking through Luton Town Centre and the crowds, you're all walking together. It feels like football, and you're coming away from it as well at the same time. That for me is more just about. But anyway, that's an.
Do you know what? You adapted. Whatever your experience was like at Selhurst Park, you adapted. Look, Plough Lane is a considerable upgrade on Kings Meadow. Considerable. And I think, like I say, I'm really fortunate that I've been able to go to the game.
On that score, Stu, if anyone's doubting this, I used the gents at half-time and the hand dryer worked. That shows you we are really stepping up a level at Plough Lane.
But you know what? The ground is only... So how they've done the COVID is they literally open up where the players' entrance is going to be, and you literally go in, get a temperature check, go up a flight of stairs, and then you go into the West Stand. But but it's basic, right? It is basic, but it's 10 times better than Kings Meadow. I still feel like I'm a trespasser. I shouldn't be in that ground because it's too good for it. It's the worst sort of things. But I'll be honest with you, I daydream a hell of a lot when I go to Plough Lane, because I can't. I've been fortunate to go to games, but I can't wait until the fans are in there, because you can see it's not finished yet, it's not far off it, but there's so much potential. And in a way, sometimes going to a game, so people might find this weird, going to Plough Lane how it is, actually, it makes you miss it even more. But around Plough Lane, how the hell are we going to deal with traffic? No idea.
No chance.
Zero
idea. Chance.
But even the fact that McDonald's is going to be opposite, and it feels like you're in. I know, I should consider. Well, there's a KFC near Ellsfield Station, by the way. Even if it's stupid things like that, you have to spend stupid money to get food and stuff. But do you know what? It's breathtaking what it is, and it's even more heartbreaking sometimes when you so near. Do you know what I mean? It will be an amazing ground, but at the moment, it's just a ground. It could be any ground until the fans come back in it. That will make Plough Lane but it's going to be I can't wait. I can't wait. Do you know what I mean? But the match day routine, it's going to change massively, isn't it? We've got a pub. I still love the fact, by the way, it says pub. It's when the signs in the west stand say pub and fan zone. I love that pub. It's just so, yeah. It's going to be a hell of a ground, but it ain't going to be anything until we're all in there.
One thing I would like to fundraise is for some sort of covering for the seats, because the east stand, the way the sun was shining on it when we went that one time, they are going to destroy the colour of the blue. They're going to wash out the colour. It's going to start looking like Sunderland, except in blue, where it's all faded and horrible. We need to protect the seats to keep them their nice, bold, bright colours.
Do you know what I moaned about very quickly? I moaned that where the windows are, at a certain point, this was against it wasn't Peterborough, it was Bristol Rovers, I think. So at 3 o'clock kickoff. And like we always judge where the sun comes in from. So we never went in the John Green stand because you couldn't see. But the east stand, there's a window that the sunlight reflects heavily. And I was moaning. And I'm thinking, I should have moaned. I should have moaned. I did.
It's reflection, refraction, all those physics words with triangular prisms that none of us can remember. But all that said, Stu, we talk about football, we talk about match day routines and things going back to normal. For a lot of people, things have been different this year, but it does seem that football has got away with it largely. I am referencing, in a roundabout way, the situation at the Stadium of Light on Tuesday evening, where it was announced very late in the day that Sunderland had 8 players that were having to self-isolate because of an outbreak of COVID in their squad. I think two players were actually tested positive.
Yeah, I believe that came out the day after, didn't it, I believe?
Right. And therefore that they were a little bit short of numbers for their squad because of that. They tried to get the game postponed. There was some backwards and forwards with the EFL about exactly the rules on this, and if the EFL were to judge that they'd postponed the game but hadn't followed certain protocols or whatever, then they would be liable to points deductions or fines, and they didn't want to risk that, so they went ahead with the game anyway. I don't know if we had any say in this process at any point whatsoever, bearing in mind that we had not long since played Bristol Rovers, who have had to postpone games because of COVID tests in their squad. Didn't seem like the most sensible idea. As I said to you, Stu, and I said on Twitter the other day, if this had happened at school, if 8 of the teachers at school had been told they had to self-isolate, then they'd just shut the whole school down. So why does football operate under different laws? And I'm not just saying football. In fairness to Premier League and Championship level, they still have their mandatory tests that go on all the time. We don't have that at our level. So why do we operate under different rules than anyone else?
Well, similar to what we were saying, wasn't it? With Premier League and stuff like that. But it felt to me like the EFL didn't really give a clear guideline to Sunderland. So, from my understanding, is they couldn't guarantee there wouldn't be a fine or a point deduction because my understanding is they investigate every postponement. And Charlton had postponed their game early in the day. Sorry, Bristol Rovers has cancelled, postponed their game against Charlton early in the day, so they didn't seem to have an issue with it. And you sort of, in a way, you're thinking, surely the EFL have got to give guidance, and surely you've got to err on the side of safety. Yeah, you've got to be cautious with this. And I was a bit concerned that we just had an outbreak. Yes, we know it was, we don't know the players that had it, but we think a fair few had it. And then we put them in a situation again when they could potentially be another COVID hotspot. So, it'd be interesting to see what say we had in it. I'm sure we must have. I'm sure these Sunderland must have spoken to us. And, they decided to play in the end. We were happy to play, as normally happens in these games where squads change. It looked a bit all over the place, wasn't it, for Sunderland and stuff like that. But I just don't know where we should have played that game. I know we travelled, but I'm sure Sunderland would have contributed towards our rearranged game if we supported them in what they wanted to do. But I think it's just the EFL just feel sometimes and they don't really give a clear direction, which is symptomatic of what other people in the country do, our government and stuff, don't they?
Is it not adding to the growing opinion of many people that this season is just a farce. It's not a complete farce by any stretch of the imagination, but when you see Sunderland have now got their next 3 games postponed, Bristol Rovers, as we said, have got games postponed, we've had games postponed, it's created a backlog of fixtures, trying to catch up on ourselves all the time. You've got people dropping in and out all the time because of self-isolating and what have you. It's just, I mean, you said a little while ago you weren't sure the season was going to reach its conclusion. I'm not sure. I think it will do, but it's going to be such a tortuous road from, well, it's been in one anyway, but from here until the end of the season, with just so many different things that are going to interfere. And also, as you say, Sunderland with I think they four would-be first teamers that weren't involved in the squad whatsoever, who would have started, has an effect, and it starts to make a little mockery of league positions. And we do see that, I think, across the country in certain regards as well, where teams are perhaps performing differently to what you would expect under quote-unquote normal circumstances.
Yeah, I agree. Well, you look at things like Arsenal at the moment in the Premier League. They can't help but keep 11 players on the pitch. That would always be a start. But you would never see Arsenal. And can you contribute that start? Can you contribute that towards no fans in the ground? I know Arsenal are very quiet anyway. Tottenham top at one point. That's got to be... So, yeah. And do you know what I think? At the moment, we're sort of like accepting, aren't we, that, Sunderland not going to play 3 games. But if this happens in February, March, when, let's be fair, it's the business part of the season in promotion, relegation, I just don't know how clubs are... For argument's sake, Plymouth had a really bad run, got beat again on that. Say they go into February in the bottom 4, does their chairman panic? Because actually, Joe, relegation probably is not what anyone wants at any time, but definitely not in an environment where you don't know what's going to happen, what finances are. So will people panic? I just don't know. But yeah, the league doesn't feel like it's a true representation. But I don't know. It's frustrating. It's very hard to get into it. Do you know what I mean? I'm not enjoying this season. It feels like whatever happens this season, it would be a season that would be remembered, but not for its quality, more for the background to it.
Yeah, the sort of circus around it. There were some very unhappy fans following the 5-2 defeats of Charlton last Saturday, which was coming off the back of the 4-2 defeat to Bristol Rovers, 9 goals conceded in 2 games. No, it's not a great look, and we're not denying that. But these things do happen from time to time. We will all remember, all of us, when Manchester United in the mid-90s lost 5-0 at Newcastle, and then the next week they lost 6-3 at Southampton. They went on to win the league. These things can happen from time to time. It really isn't the end of the world. I think we had a bit of a misfortune against Charlton. It reminded me of when we were booed off against Barnsley many years ago in the Premier League. 1-0 down at half-time at Selhurst Park. We were booed off, and then we won the second half 4-0. It was a huge kick up the backside to everyone, and our superior quality told in the end. And that I felt that was Charlton. I felt that was a reaction to them losing at half-time, their fans not being happy, and they came out and tore us to pieces, really. We can't really have too many complaints about it.
Yeah, and I just think, do you know what? Because we hit 20 points so early in the season and had some good results, we've probably raised that expectation level, simply. And yeah, do you know what? Some people weren't really accepting that we shouldn't have lost 4-2 to Bristol Rovers, that where they were. But if you looked at the quality in the side, that could happen, and it did against us. Yes, you don't want to see them back to back like we did, and 5-2 is a drubbing. Charlton are a decent side. I think we made too many changes, and Ian Hodges probably, in a way, acknowledged that in the interview we did with him on the Back to Plough Lane night. But he said maybe he could get to more of a settled side, because there's no doubt, before Bristol Rovers we conceded 9 goals in 11 games, and then go into the back of that run of lots of games and lots of changes. It's probably not a surprise that we've been a bit inconsistent, and I wouldn't be surprised if we go back to our consistent, dogged way. And we did it. We did it at Sunderland, but no one's going to judge Sunderland because there was a weaker side. But we're not a bad side overnight. But I've said to you before, isn't it? I think the fact that fans can't go to games and are at home and frustrated, which I understand fully, a win is reacted to as like we're the best team, and it's a flat when we lose. We're shocking. There's no middle ground. And I think that's just the nature of fans being stuck at home, not being able to go and enjoy the live game.
Strange results have always happened throughout history, as I've said. It was only on the same day back in 92, where we actually beat Oldham Athletic 5-2 in the Premier League. That was the same date, 12th of December. I mean, no, you have the, and don't forget back in those days, it was 7-1. We lost at Villa. We got hit for 6 at Newcastle one year. All these things. The thing is, what I'm saying is that for every 5-2 defeat where everyone goes, we've conceded 5 goals, it's shocking, it's the end of the world, this shouldn't be allowed, it's terrible, Hodges out, all this business. Flip side of that is we had the games where we turned Bury over twice in a week, 5-1, 5-0. You're going to accept that there are days when you are so good that you deserve to win by a big margin. Conversely, that means you're going to have to take it when it happens in reverse against you. It's football. It's the way you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, let's not forget, when Terry Brown was in his final days, we lost 6-2 at Burton and 5-1 at Bradford, didn't we? In the same week. But if we go back to that position, that wasn't a good side. It just wasn't. It wasn't good enough for that league. But if you look at the Charlton game, and you look at the Bristol Rovers game, we were decent in terms of we've got a really effective strike force. Joe Piggott loves Plough Lane, doesn't he? Let's be fair, he scored in every game that's been there. So in the Charlton game, we went 2-1 up. At 2-1, we had a breakaway 3-on-2. Could have gone 3-1 up on it. We maybe the wrong ball was selected. Then we just couldn't get out. We just couldn't get out, and there wasn't. I don't think there was that leader in that back three to just, and even the goalkeeper. There wasn't. We got trapped. We got boxed in. We couldn't get out. We couldn't retain possession, and in the end, we just got a bit of a hiding in the second half. But the team is a good team. It's the same team that beat Peterborough 2-1. And Peterborough were just as good as Bristol Rovers, in my opinion, and just as good as Charlton. So, yeah, I like to say I didn't like getting beat, but we can easily turn this around.
And we have a first opportunity to do that when we host Crewe Alexandra on. No, we don't. We host Crewe Alexandra on Saturday. I was thinking Alexandra Park near me. I don't know. Anyway, well, let's have a look at that now, actually, before we get on to the last bit I want to talk about this week. Crewe are in League One. There's nothing wrong with being a club like Crewe.
No.
They just bat around League One and League Two. They're quite happy. Never really, they get on. They have their derbies against Port Vale here and there. That seems to be the big rivalry, Crewe-Port Vale, for some reason.
Yeah.
And they just seem to get on with life, and I don't see why we can't be different to that. It's fine. Not everyone can be a Manchester United, and not everyone can be. Who have taken over the mantle of being like the team that's always at the bottom of League Two without actually going down? Like back in it was always Barnet,
Stevenage, possibly.
Stevenage, yeah, that's a good shout. Yeah.
I think now bottom of.
Like Southend are there at the minute, but you wouldn't put them there normally.
No, but then Southend at the moment, do you know what I mean? Like Scunthorpe teams. If you go back, Southend were always a good shout, weren't they? Strong League Two team. Scunthorpe, strong League One team. Yeah. Now Scunthorpe under Newcastle. But it's just weird, isn't it? Southend, Bolton. Let's not forget Bolton. Yeah, these teams are at the bottom of League Two. Big clubs. But that's the way the cycle goes, isn't it, at the moment?
Yes. But as I say, like it always used to be, like Macclesfield were always one as well every year. You tip them to go down. So we're not there. We're not, as I say, we're not top end. Let's just be a Crewe. Let's just bounce between these divisions. It's fine. It's not the end of the world. We tend to get a little bit...
No one dislikes Crewe, do they?
No, I can't think why you would like. I mean, well...
What have you disliked about them?
Well, I don't think it's a different. Let's just say Crewe could potentially be a more sensitive subject now than maybe it was 5 years ago. But let's not go down that road. As a club, everyone's quite. Okay. Yeah, you see where I'm going with that.
Oh yeah, okay.
But I do agree with you. Like generally, they're just. No one's really got a bad word to say about the football club Crewe. It's quite a nice away day. It's right next to the station. That's what I
mean. They kindly placed it right next to the station. They kindly put a chippy. They kindly put a pub opposite. Yeah,
they play nice football. Always played nice football.
Yeah, like even if the fans come to the ground, like, I don't like clapping away fans. You know what I'm like? I might be considered to smile at them because I just don't think they cause any harm unless they thrash us, and then I don't like them.
Yeah, and they did turn us over one year. I think the first season we got up, didn't they? Quite well with some good players. But anyway, we're off the point. So Crewe currently, I've just looked at the league table for the first time, and I don't know how long. Plymouth have lost 5 in a row. What's happening? They're dropping like a stone. Crewe are mid-table. They're 11th. Won 8, lost 8, drawn 2. So don't really know what to expect from them, to be fair. But I'm sure it'll be an entertaining game. And we'll look to get back to winning ways and win a league game at Plough Lane on a Saturday, which we haven't done yet.
No, and I say we play Crewe, then we play Oxford United Boxing Day, who are going to have a free weekend because they're not playing this weekend. So I don't know. You don't know whether that means the team's fresher or whether actually it's better playing games, do you? But no, Crewe, I think from memory, they beat Peterborough 2-0 at home recently. So we beat also Peterborough. I think they're capable of a good result. Yeah, it just depends how we come out firing, doesn't it, really? We got a decent... I feel the team sort of picked itself a couple of weeks ago, and now it's like there's a few things you can't get right. But, we just got... Joe Bigger's on fire. 6 goals, 6 games consecutive scored. Like the goal, let's be fair, the goal at Charlton. Great goal, wasn't it?
Oh, fantastic finish. And yeah, he is absolutely, as you say, on all cylinders at the moment. And we'll see what that means for January. But maybe we'll talk about that more when we return on New Year's Day with the podcast and see where things are.
Can I just say something
score
very quickly? Jack Radoni against Sunderland, he's very quickly turning into he's a good player, but he's very quickly turning into quite an important player for us. And the skill that he did against Sunderland, where he faced up the defender, the defender didn't want to go in, which shows a bit of respect of that he didn't really want to beat, and then goes around the side of him and gets a penalty. Anyone else does that in League One, and they'd be raving. Do you know what I mean? We've got a hell of a player in our hands, and and the more games he plays, the better and the more confident he looks.
And maybe perhaps also attracting interest in the same way I was suggesting Joe Pigott was minutes ago. So, yes, we shall come back to that one, as I say, on January the 1st, when we look ahead to what 2021 shall bring us. The last thing I want to talk about this week, Stu, before we play Whose Nine Is It Anyway, is the elephant in the room, or should I say the Bronco in the room, which is a potential Groundshare. I don't even know if that works, but I went with it. The potential Groundshare with London Broncos, which was announced or revealed to Don's Trust members on Saturday evening. Talk about their place in Super League, which has gone to Lee, I believe.
That's right, yeah.
Lee Centurions. The offer of London Broncos playing at Plough Lane, though, I don't believe that's died with them not getting a Super League place. I very much on the understanding that whatever league they shall be in, which will be the Championship, I think it is in Rugby League, that the offer will still be on the table. They still need a place to play games, and they're still willing to pay us a sum to do it. Lots of strong feelings on this one when the news was announced. In terms of fans having a say on it, it's not a restricted action. The Constitution is out of date on this one. Restricted actions refer to Kings Meadow still, which does need to be updated. But in terms of us sharing with another team, or us owning a stadium and allowing another team, be it another football team or any other sport, to use the venue, that doesn't have to be passed by any restricted action vote or anything like that. There seemed to be disquiet from people that they weren't going to get an option to have a say on it before a decision would be made. But I'm not sure that was ever quite right.
Yeah, do you know what? The communication, I think we could agree, could have been a bit clearer on Saturday evening. Like, if you're going to release something like that, then you don't really want to do it after a 5-2 drubbing at Charlton, but they're not in control of results.
How about a 5-2 drubbing at Warsaw?
Well, yeah, true. I think, from my point of view, Groundshare doesn't surprise me, because we've all seen when Plough Lane was being built, that I think Wikipedia had been changed, isn't it, saying that a rugby team was going to share. And I know Wikipedia's not always, people can put what they want on there, but
You were about to say that Wikipedia is not always 100% correct.
I was.
I think that's a generous way of putting it.
Yeah, I was going to say that. So the Groundshare wasn't a concern. I think, like anything, it's the detail, isn't it? There was some Q&As. I think we all have a thing of what's the branding going to be like? How is it going to impact the pitch? We don't want to be permanent. It's our ground. But equally, you have to accept that, Joe's been honest and said we can't constantly have the fans bail the club out. It's not always going to happen. So maybe we have to look at this. But I think we're in a very strong position. We need to dictate to it. We can't be, we've got the ground, basically. We've got the story. We've got everything they need, we've got. But it's just in the detail, isn't it? And I think, we're recording this on Thursday evening before the AGM that's happening this evening. I think there might be some more details in that. So we might know some more. But I think, the Don's Trust board would easily say that they probably wanted to have more details. It looked like we had to release it because it was going to be released in the papers because of the Super League vote. And obviously they had already, I think the Broncos had already said that they had a potential ground share with us. So, you don't want to find it out from the papers. It's been a mixed reaction, isn't it? For me, the money's right and the detail is right, then yes. But we need to make sure we are as transparent as we can. And I would like it to go to a vote, if I'm being honest with you. You're right. The Constitution doesn't say it has to, but I think it should.
The fan ownership thing, I said that sometimes we need to get some of our wording correct with this one, as it was pointed out to me. We need to be more clear that we are trust-owned. I think we need to lead with fan-owned is great for branding and marketing purposes, but we are, in essence, we are trust-owned. And it's semantics there, I know, and it's very slight and nuanced, but there is a distinction to be made there. But increasingly, Stu, we have to say fan-financed.
Yeah,
is a fairer term for where we're at. And if we want to remain fan owned, then we have to accept that we are going to have to make concessions with things like potentially, I'm not saying I'm in favour of the deal or not, I haven't made a decision yet, but we have to find ways of generating finance because we've got huge debts to pay off to get the stadium paid for with bonds and loans and all these sorts of things. And we also want to have a team. We seem wedded to this idea that we need to be a League One club. Well, that means we're going to have to put investment into the squad just to maintain that. As we've seen, it's difficult to stay in this division on a small budget.
Yeah. And if you read, the Don's Trust board meeting from November, minutes have been released late this week. And if you look through the financial side of it, there's projections on potentially what the ground could earn us. But they're projections because we just don't know. We're going into economy. Will we get the same sort of level of sponsorship or interest in it? We've got a West Ham that's got a lot of executive space and hospitality. It's got to be sold, and it's got to have buyers for it. So, we've got a healthy budget this year. What budget are we going to have next year? When do the fans come in? There's so many unanswered questions that the club are right to look at revenue. But for my gut feeling is, I think yes, agree it. I don't. In my opinion, from what Joe Palmer has demonstrated already, I don't think he does a bad deal. I think he's quite a hard taskmaster. And it's interesting, very quickly off topic, the pub, it looks like the vendor or the supplier to the pub is going to be announced. And I didn't realise, but Joe Palmer at Sheffield Wednesday has done something very similar, created a pub that had social events, all that sort of stuff, and he made it a 7 day a week. 7 day a week? Yeah, it's 7. I don't know what I mean. He made it a 7. He made it attractive to be used 7 days a week.
24/7?
Yeah, what I mean is it was a venue that could be used 7 days a week, so it had a use. It wasn't just a match day pub.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And that made me think, actually, do you know what? So what he's doing so the funny thing is that what he's doing at Wimbledon actually he's already trialled out at Sheffield Wednesday. Even down to the kit that he done for Sheffield Wednesday. Do you know what I mean? That's potentially saying. So I'm confident of his business knowledge, and I think we'll get a good deal, but we need to have some more detail.
Yeah, but it's all about finding those revenue streams, isn't it? Like we said, if we want to maintain our fan ownership, we're going to have to find ways to generate money. It's not all going to come through tickets and merchandise and match day catering and all that business and whatever that involved and whatever markup we make on these things. I don't know.
Don't forget though. Don't forget. He said about the e-gaming, didn't he? I don't know if you recall when on the videos they did, and we got the biggest sort of room like in terms of for weddings and stuff. And I think Chelsea is the closest. But he even mentioned, which made me chuckle, that we could get into e-gaming, to host e-gaming events.
My
which
word.
I know, but do you know what? The funny thing is that to me just makes me think. When I was younger, I'd love to have that, but I've got a 2-year-old son, and I'm thinking, do you know what? Yeah, he's going to go up into it, and my wife's sitting next to me, so she's probably going to tell me off. But we are looking at that's a great idea for e-gaming. In terms of utilising that, because that's very popular. Brings the kids in, brings the families in. You link. Do you know? He's got some very clever ideas, and that's what we're going to have to do. We need to make Plough Lane needs to be used 7 days a week, and. But like we say, we just don't know the revenue streams because we're all going into an economy that no one really knows how it's going to recover.
No. And on that cheery note, let's park that there for now. Let's get Whose Nine Is It out? Whose Nine Is It Anyway out of the way. And Stu, this might be the last time we play this because after Christmas we normally refresh the game. Cool. I might think of something else. So in honour of this being the last one, I thought I'd give you your favourite squad number, which is number 1.
Oh. See, I don't like this because that puts the pressure on me.
How? It's number 1.
Well, because if you give... Yeah, but let me give you an example, right? If you said like a number 4, a number 4 could be a midfielder, a centre-half. Do you know what I mean? Like there's...
True.
Number 1 is a goalkeeper, isn't it?
Not always. Who was the World Cup team that just did them alphabetically one year? They literally listed their... Yeah, I can't think who it was. Okay. Was it back in the day of... Was it like Zaire or somebody when they... I don't know.
Well, Zaire... All I remember of Zaire is they played Scotland, didn't they? Was it a free kick? Or Brazil?
They played Brazil, yeah.
The whistle was blown and they went and just kicked it. I find it the funniest thing ever.
It's like being in the playground again. Like, no, you shouldn't take it. All the arguments you used to have kind of break time. It wasn't a direct free kick. It's indirect. You got to touch it. Oh, yeah, all those things.
It's just the funniest thing. They qualified for World Cup, the biggest competition in the football world, and they don't know the rules.
And they don't know the rules. But we know the rules of Whose Nine Is It Anyway, which is that you have to tell me which player wore this squad number in the season I gave you. The number is number 1. Let's start with 2001, 2002.
2001, 2002. Oh, 1 second. That would be... Oh, shit, I forgot his name. Kelvin Davis.
Okay. What about 2011, 2012?
My wife is laughing at me before I've even answered the question.
Oh, no.
My wife... Do not do that to me. My wife knows.
I think she will know.
What are we, Sebs?
No pressure on you, Stu. Everyone listening knows the answer to this one.
Seb Brown.
Okay. 2014, 2015.
Oh, do you know what? I don't like this game. Would it be... No, it wouldn't be George Long. George Long. No, I think he was later.
I'll give you a clue.
Wrong.
Okay. Do you want a clue?
Isn't it the goalkeeper that was late for a game? And I've just forgotten his name now.
That wasn't going to be my clue, but you're right.
You
are right. Yeah, it's
I've
that
just
one.
forgotten his name. Oh,
Rachel will know.
Oh, damn. No, mine's gone blank. I can't believe that. I know who he looks like. Warner.
Well,
no.
Say it again.
Warner. It's Warner, isn't it?
Who, Warner?
I can't remember his first name. Mister.
Rachel will know. I told you that.
Oh,
well, you got 2.5 out of 3, Stu, which is still your best performance on this game.
First name. Ross.
There we go. Red Ross.
Oh, and I get your link now. I couldn't remember his first name. Do you know what? As you get older, I just forget. I've been calling Sean McLaughlin recently.
That's a worry.
Exactly.
The only Sean M anyone should ever be referencing is Shawn Michaels.
Yeah, true. Yeah, as you get older, you sometimes just forget it. And I suppose it's because they have their surname on the back of their shirts. That's what I see a lot. I forget their first names.
Maybe we should do it like primary school and put like their first name with just their initial at the end, like Ross W. 1.
They do eventually when they come out, yeah.
Kelvin Davis and Seb Brown, you were correct, of course. So well done. 2.5, I'll give you your best ever performance. Well done. Excellent.
I'm good on goalkeepers. The last answer.
What a soundbite that is. Stuart Deacons, I'm good on goalkeepers. And on that bombshell, we'll wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, listeners. Thank you very much for joining us. Stu, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, and Happy Christmas and Happy New Year.
Do you want my top tips for how to keep your mental health strong over the next few weeks in lockdowns and can't see families? My advice always, Stu, is walking. Always go for walks. They're very good for clearing your head and giving you time to think. And also, take a break from your phone. Take a break from social media. Just switch it off, put it away, reduce the amount of time you look at it and use it. You will feel so much better for doing so. My third tip is there's a best of Alexa Bliss collection on the WWE Network. That will certainly keep me entertained for many hours.
She's done a Canada this year, has she?
Oh, I haven't looked. I'm going to have to have a look and see if she has. And maybe Peyton Royce has done one and Billy Kay as well. Who knows? Right, listeners, thank you very much for joining us. That is it. We shall speak to you again on January the 1st. But for now, all I will say is calendar or no calendar, Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last, 2 + 2 = 4. And we shall speak to you again in 2021.